Hello, beautiful souls. It's Jeannie here, Too Much Woman. Welcome to Spiritual G-Spot. Sit down, buckle up. You are in for a ride. I am here with the gorgeous Gabriela. She is the epitome of a too much woman in so many ways. I felt energetically drawn to her. She showed up at Too Much Woman Dallas during our tour last year, and you are just going to love, love, love this. So let me introduce you. Hello, beautiful. Thank you
Hola,
for being
Gina. Hola,
hola,
hola. Spiritual tribe out there.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. We met in such an interesting way.
Like around a year ago, it was the event, right?
It was exactly a year past weekend, because all the memories come up on Facebook, and it just happened. It was a year ago on the weekend. But so I don't even know the story of how you showed up at the Too Much Woman. I don't know who the connection is. We'll figure that out. But somehow you came. I knew you were coming, but somehow you came, and then you started to speak. And we had a red carpet. I just have to tell everybody, we had a red carpet with a step and repeat. And I walked in because I heard that you had come, and they were already interviewing you. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even really brief her about, we had a very brief conversation about Too Much Woman. And I want to make sure that you understand the philosophy. I didn't, because a lot of people have misunderstanding what it means. It's about big girls. It's about this. It's about that. And there's a clip of you breaking down what it means to you to be a too much woman. And you hear me in the background going, yes, yes, yes. So anyways, thank you for being here. I'm so very happy. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you? Tell everybody what we should know about you.
My name is Natale. I'm a 3-time Emmy award-winning journalist and entrepreneur, and I'm an independent producer. I'm originally from Argentina. I'm a speaker, a best-selling author, and I just became this year also a beauty founder of my own line of hair extensions to be camera ready in 5 minutes or less from your home, which is what everybody wants right now. So that's right. What Welcome of Beauty is for.
Thank you. And you are so much more than that. I want to talk about...
Oh, and welcome from my closet, because I turned my closet into a TV studio now in quarantine.
I love, my eye is drawn to the sequence and the sparkle and it looks dreamy. It's a perfect backdrop for this conversation. So when I first crossed paths with you, and I did a little bit of research about who you are and what you do, what blew me away most of all was how you really represented a woman who is a trailblazer. We use that word a lot, but you are a trailblazer in such a unique way. And I would love for you, we're going to talk about many things today, but I think it's important to frame our conversation with this, because this is what, during these times, during this pandemic, how important it is to find a path. Like water doesn't stop at the rocks. Water says, I'm going to go around, over, through, under. So tell us a little bit about your path and the journey and your trailblazing.
Well, I always believe, because I came to the US in my early 20s, I'm 42 right now, and I always believed that, when you change the country where you're living, or you change your social circle, when life you choose, or life forces you to change, you ask yourself, like, who am I? Was I the person that was living out there? What am I the person who's living here? What's the essence of that person who used to live there and now lives here? And when I moved to the US, I realized there was a lot of connotations to who I was supposed to be. That being an immigrant was sometimes tied to being uneducated, that having an accent was sometimes tied to being uneducated, that, starting fresh in a new country meant for some people that you were a taker, and I knew I was none of those things. I knew that I was somebody who had a lot to give. I knew that I was somebody who could build. I knew that I was somebody who was smart. I knew that I was somebody who was hardworking. So there's a moment when, and I think it happens to everyone. You don't have to be an immigrant. You don't have to be a woman. It's a universal thing that sometimes you face low expectations about you or people like you. It could be a big girl. It could be an older girl. It could be anything. But you know you're facing low expectations about you or people like you. And that's a pivotal moment because how you react to that defines a lot. Because if you choose to believe those low expectations about you or people like you, and you don't realize that that's just an opinion, not a fact, then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you take it as a fact and you say, yes, I am a taker. Yes, maybe I'm not that smart. Yes, I am uneducated. Yes, I speak with an accent and that means that maybe I'm not that bright. If I start to internalize and believe those judgments, then I start to behave like I am not that smart. I don't have so much going on for myself. I don't have that many opportunities. So you have to think about what your mindset is, because what you have in your mind and how you feel about yourself ultimately will create down the road your reality.
So let's talk about, before we get into how you started to become a trailblazer and what you started to do. I love that you started off with belief, because it really begins and ends with what we believe. So it sounds to me as though, because you said, I knew I was smart. I knew I had something to offer. I knew there was something there for me. Where did that belief come from? I mean, how were you raised by people who told you this? And how, because for so many of us, we either get mixed messages or we get the opposite message, or we have a belief, but then the world tells us different. So tell me about
the world. At some point, Gina, will always tell you differently. You will have mixed messages. Of course, the ones you receive when you are growing up are super important, because these are formative years when you're growing up. But at the same time, there's no person who will go through life not believing, not receiving so many different inputs. And what's sad is that sometimes, even in social media, I didn't grow up with social media. I'm on the older side, but it happens many times that people receive 15 messages. 2 of them are negatives. 13 of them are positive. And you have to make the effort of not overestimating those negative messages, because that's what you're hooked in. And we're humans. It can happen. Let me turn this off.
Yeah, I think I want to say I want to say it's funny, because when I look at my video that went viral, 40 million people, I honestly can say that in all of the comments over the past 2 years, there were probably 50 that were negative in some way. 50 that said, you're to this, she's so full of herself, she's so this, whatever. 50 out of 40 million. But do you know that those 50 shook me? I'm pretty solid. But they take, and they're strangers, and they take me from, and because our brain is designed to focus on the negative to keep us safe, those are the ones that stand out. And I have to really think to myself about taking things out of perspective, out of proportion. And so tell me a little bit about yourself growing up, and the role models that you had, and how you came to such a clear understanding of who you are.
I grew up in a family that had very strong female role models, my mom, my uncles, and also, I don't know if it played a part or not, but I went to an all-girls school. And so growing up, there was no these assignments are for boys and these assignments are for girls inside the school. We were all good and bad in math, good and bad in arts, good and bad in a physical activity, good and bad in whatever, in a random way. But in the class, there was no real role to gender, because we were all girls. I mean, unlike the world outside. So I don't know if that played a role or not, but I grew up thinking about women as my sisters, as my community. And I think that in a way, now I'm having the conversations that, I used to live when I was growing up, seeing these women that are so strong, and seeing the new generation starting to question these things we sometimes grow up with, that you have to compete for a man, you have to compete for an opportunity, you have to compete for a job. And that was one of the reasons why, when I saw your video, I saw your invitation, I liked the energy that you were putting out in the world. And I said, I don't know this woman, first time that I'm seeing her, but I think I have to support her message, because this is something good that we're putting out in the world.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, really the movement like this, none of it was intentional. I told a little speech in a little place here in Toronto, Canada. I didn't think it would ever go on social media. It wasn't a business plan. And neither was the movement. The movement wasn't a plan. The tour wasn't a plan. People just said, will you come? Will you come? Will you come? And what I noticed is that, here's the interesting thing, Gabby, is everywhere I've toured, I launched Europe just during COVID in February. I flew home from Paris because I've been launching all over the world. People read the book. They don't say to me, tell me more about you. What they say is, they pull me aside at the break. They pull me aside in the hallway. They pull me aside in the elevator, and they say, I want to tell you about me. I want to tell you about my story. I want to tell you about, and we are desperate, we're hungry for the sisterhood, the connection. Hear me, see me, understand me. Like we're longing for that so much. And what I love so much about the fact that so many people in Dallas, for example, showed up, like all of these women just showed up in their busy lives to support the movement. They didn't even know me. It was to support one another. That I've seen that all over the world. And that is how we change things. That gets me so super excited. Tell me about, I really want you to tell them about the fact that you're an Emmy award-winning producer. I want people to know where you came from, what you did, and how you did it on your own terms. Talk about that. That's really important.
So I graduated in Argentina in the year 2001, and I can really connect so much with class of 2020 around the globe, because in the moment when I graduated in Argentina, there was a huge economic, financial, and political crisis. And we had 20% or more unemployment. So kind of a similar reality that we're living today under different conditions. But I can relate to that feeling of being a senior, having that feeling of wanting to take over the world, but the world had a different plan for us. And I want to tell everybody right now that maybe you're graduating this year, or maybe this was the year you were planning, saving, and planning to launch your business or to get married. Who knows what plans you have for this year. But I want to tell you that, of course, without taking away from the importance of a global pandemic and the drama and the tragedy that we are living, putting that aside, if you're healthy, if you're alive, if you're here, if you're safe, I want to tell you that sometimes the most beautiful surprises we have in life come wrapped in a big no, come wrapped in a non-sexy packaging, come wrapped in circumstances that are very far from ideal. In the case when I graduated, it was 20% unemployment. It was a very chaotic country. And that led me to have a year and a half unemployed. That led me to so much rejection looking for a job, so many no's. But at the end, that led me to a life-changing opportunity that brought me to the US. And I'm going to tell you how it worked. One day, after a year and a half of being unemployed, I had a friend who called me and told me that the company she was working for was doing a conference, an international conference, and that she needed my help. And I assumed that she needed the help of a wonderful journalist to go and interview panelists and to write reports and everything. And I said, wow, I feel very flattered that you're asking me for my services. And she said, Gabby, hold on. One, I don't need a journalist. I need a helper who is going to move chairs and it's going to hand out flyers. Two, the reason I'm calling you is not because you're a brilliant graduate or whatever you want to call yourself. The reason I'm calling you is because we have no money and I'm asking favors from friends. And so I said yes to her. And the moment I hung up, I felt like I was the biggest failure in the planet, Gina, because everybody who graduated with me was going to attend that same conference, but as an attendee, not moving chairs. And I will be there serving them, you know, and I felt like, wow, what a loser I am. And so in that moment that I'm having the pity party in my head, my mother, the phone rings, it's my mother. And you know how mothers, they have like an emotional scan. You say hello and they already know what is happening. What's wrong? So I told her, you know, I'm such a loser and now they're calling me and I already said yes and I'm going to work for free after everything. I have a master's degree, yada, yada, yada. And so she asked me one question. Do you have anything better to do with your time, Gabriela, tomorrow? And I said, I'm unemployed. Of course, I don't have nothing to do with my time. And so she told me, listen to me real carefully, mija. This is what you're going to say. And this is what you're going to do. Tomorrow, you're going to wake up and you're going to put your best clothes, your best red lipstick, and your best attitude. Like they're paying you $1 million per day, even when they are paying you zero. And why, Gabby? Because you never know when opportunity will knock on your door. And
I have chills on my arms.
Gina, my mom is a witch. I don't know. She's a fortune teller. I don't know that woman, what she has. The following day, I brought my A game. And then in the middle of the day of moving chairs, handing out flyers, I see my friend coming with a face of panic. And she's telling me, Gabby, the translator canceled last minute. And I have a delegation of professors from George Washington University coming here, and I have nobody to translate for them. So would you please do me the favor of translating? And I dropped the chairs, I dropped the flyers, I dropped everything. And what did I do? I translated. And to make a long story short, Gina, that was the seed, that collaboration was the seed for a job that later manifested as a public relations job in Washington, D.C. So you never know when opportunity will knock on your door, even in a global pandemic.
This is everything that I talk about. This is everything I talk about because I love that you said, I wish I could reach through and I could kiss you, because I have so many examples, but the most obvious example is when I was invited to speak at a competition, a speaker competition. I've been a speaker for 25 years. I don't need to be in a competition. They asked me, there was one spot left. I was like, what? And something in me said, go. Something in me. And I said,
intuition is wise.
Intuition. And it wasn't just go. It wasn't just go. I wrote a speech and I put it away. And 3 days before the event, I was sitting in my room trying to memorize it. And I got a hot flash. It was only 2 years ago. Got a hot flash, and it said, no, there is something else you need to tell. Tell your story. Because a speaker always speaks for the audience. They said, tell your story. And I said, I don't have time to rewrite this speech. I have other things to do. And my intuition said, no, write the story you want to write. And within an hour, I wrote Too Much Woman, and my life has changed. Wow. I went to a speaker competition. I thought it was going to be 30 people at a bar. It was like 150 people. I won the competition. Even that was enough. Mm-hmm. And then to go on social media, then to have, Ashton Kutcher, Jay Shetty, all these. So my life has changed. But I say this to emphasize your point. The magic isn't in connecting all the dots. The magic is being open to the opportunity and trusting it. Like your mother said, mija, go, show up 100%, and the magic will show up for you. The magic will show up for you.
And Gina, it happened to me in other ways, in other times in my life. Sometimes we resist that place of yes, or that magic place of possibilities. You can call it any way you want to call it. Everybody can call it any way they want to call it. But inside, And I had an experience that was similar, you know, with an invitation to speak in public that I rushed and I said yes, and then I had cold feet, and then I showed up, and I was a journalist already used to speaking in public at the time, but as a moderator or as somebody who is interviewing somebody else. But I felt absolutely uncomfortable at the time sharing my story. And I shared the story of being unemployed in that stage. And that was in the We All Grow Women's Conference, like a few years back, like 5-6 years ago or something like that. And then I shared, and I already felt like I was winning just by facing my fears, like you said. And then in the audience, you never know, in the audience, there was a book agent, and she reached out to me and she said, you know what? There's a book there. And yes, she represented me. I had the idea already for a book, and 3 months later, we had the deal with HarperCollins. So imagine when you second guess yourself, when you freeze, when you don't know if you should do something or not, how many doors you're closing just but not even trying to do that thing that scares you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I love this. I love this. Tell everybody about your Emmy Awards. I think this is.
Well, when I arrived in the United States, for the first 4 years, I worked for somebody else. It could be a TV station, a TV network, a public relations firm, etc. Then, after 4 years of paperwork, I was finally able, and I had a visa that would not allow me to work for myself. Would not allow me to be an independent producer. So once my green card was approved, yay, finally we have this opportunity. People say being an entrepreneur is a risk. For me, being an entrepreneur was a privilege because I didn't have the right. I had to earn the right to do it. So I asked myself, and I asked my husband, who is also my partner, what do we really want to do? Because now we have a world of possibilities, at least legally. And I saw, that was in the year 2007. And I saw incredible women like Oprah and so many others who were also calling the shots of their own content. This was before, you know, Instagram and YouTube exploded and everything. So, and I saw on the other side, I saw so many women feeling constrained because maybe they were too much women, but they were put to just read the teleprompter and shut up and look pretty. And that's it.
That's exactly why I left journalism. Yeah,
exactly. And it's so uncomfortable when you have so much more to contribute, and you have so much more that you want to do. And sometimes, you know, Gina, as a journalist, sometimes we fall in love with stories, but there's a gatekeeper. It's your news director. And wow, all these stories you want to tell, and somebody else have to approve them, and they go untold. And yes, I am sentimental. Yes, I am cheesy, but you fall in love with those stories who never see the light, you know? And that was also my reason for quitting and starting an independent production space. And so I started my TV show out of a carpet warehouse in a very small market in West Texas that is called Midland, Odessa. We got hit, we started in the year 2007. We got hit by the 2008 crisis. And what happened was that all my sponsors suddenly canceled, you know. And so again, you know, it's like moments like this, the 2001 crisis in Argentina, the 2008 crisis in the US, the pandemic. It's all these moments that allow us to nurture our inner warrior, because we have that inner warrior in us. And so I said, like, if I continue like this, all my sponsors are gone, you know, I'm gonna go file for bankruptcy, or I'm gonna have to look for a job in a recession. You know, I already know what that looks like from my experience in Argentina. It's not fun. So I have to make it work somehow. So that crisis forced me literally to go look for new markets, go look for new opportunities, because my sponsors canceled in that city. So I took a road trip with my husband, and we started pitching the show city by city, state by state. Some said yes, some said no. And so, but with every yes, we won a new territory. With one yes, we won a new market. And it was not overnight, and it was not magic. But 7 years later, we got the call we've been waiting for from day one in the red carpet, in the carpet warehouse where we were doing the show. And that was the call to syndicate the show. And so it took us a long, long time to go from this small market to the national syndication, but we made it. And once we made it, we qualified for the national Emmys, which is the big leagues competing against CNN, competing against NBC, Telemundo, Univision, you name it, whoever is network television in your category. And I always think that you have to believe in your truth, you have to own your truth, and you have to believe that even if you are the small player, you can accomplish great things. Because if you compare a budget to the budget of the CNNs of the world and the NBCs of the world, ABC, you name it, we literally should think that we had no chance of winning. And we won not once, not twice, but 3 times, Gina. So yes. That's why I urge everyone to believe in their project, their passion, their talent, and to do it in their own terms and their yes. own way.
Oh, I feel like running down the street because there's so much that you said in there that is applicable to every person watching. I want to highlight a few things. You talked about the gatekeeper. We all have a gatekeeper. Sometimes it's ourself, right? That says too much, too little, right, wrong, on, off. Don't go there.
Your significant other can be your gatekeeper in a bad relationship.
Your mother or your father who aren't even alive or aren't even living with you can still be, because they're here, right? I mean, there's so many gatekeepers. And so the essence of Too Much Woman is to say all the messaging that you are to this, to that, you are wrong in any way, to lean into those things and embrace them. Because I love what you said. You said to channel your inner warrior is to align with your truth. And the reason I'm going to venture to say the reason that you won is because maybe you can't compete with, the big leagues in terms of many other things,
yes.
production, but the truth has legs and it will stand. The truth has legs and people see that. And now more than ever, I feel that we are moving out of this expert paradigm where we're looking to the government, we're looking to the big people to make the decisions, and we're taking responsibility, understanding that who we are, we have the greatest power when we're lined up with our truth. And that's what you represent. And that's what I love about your spirit and your energy, because you are unconcerned with the gatekeepers. You've laid the law down, and I so respect that.
But because I think at the end of the day, Gina, the only resource that we have that is the most scarce is time, and life will go by whether we do the things we have in our heart or whether we don't. But there's going to be, if we're lucky, Gina, there's going to be one day where we are not going to be able to move, we're going to need a wheelchair, we're going to need somebody to assist us, if we're lucky to live that far, Yeah. And that day when you are going to need Pampers, and that day when you're going to need a wheelchair, that day when you don't remember your name, you're going to ask yourself, why didn't I do the things that mattered to me when I had 2 strong legs, when my brain was working, when my health was optimal? And I think that's the unforgivable part, because we think we have, wow, so many fears, or wow, so much time. But at the end, every day counts. That's why I in all this pandemic, I was thinking, of course, I went through different phases, and I felt sad, and I felt angry, and whatever I had planned for me, for the world, is not happening, was not happening. But one day I sat down, looked at myself in the mirror, and I said, how can I be happy with the new rules? How can I be happy right now, right here, with what I have, with what we are going through, which is not ideal for the world, for me, for whoever? How can I be happy with given the circumstances? And that, I think, is the best question we can ask ourselves, because we don't know how long this is going to last, but while this is lasting, we have to work also on somehow building that content, with what we have right now.
Yeah. Hope is so precious. Hope is so precious. And when we feel hopeless. And I love that you say that you went through the different phases. I think it's important. Everybody I speak to, almost every woman, I think it's important to highlight. I asked Dr. Trent, who I just interviewed, I asked like people that we look to and we think, wow, they really have their A game. But we all have the moment of, you know, I call it the ebb and the flow, the ebb and the flow. And what is it that keeps you flowing? What is it that pulls you back up? So I heard you say you don't want to regret at the end of your life. Like, what is it that makes you so resilient? Is it the people that you're around? Is it something that's unique to you, Gabby? Like, what do you think it is that seed? What is it?
Well, let me tell you, there's a couple of things. I've always been fascinated by people who beat the odds, who endure incredible things. And those usually are the people that I interview, you know. And one day I finished interviewing one person in my show, and I said, I've been doing this for a little bit more than 15 years right now. What do they all have in common? You know, what do all these people who started from nothing and they are the Emmy winners, the Grammy winners, the Olympic medalists, or that starting the startup that changed or touched so many people's lives, or who had so many health conditions and were able to not be defined by those health conditions. And I saw there was an invisible thread. I call it the virtuous circle. And it's like 7 energies that live inside all of us. You know, we can all nurture them. The first one is the dreamer. It's the one that visualizes your dream. The second one is the architect. The architect is the one that is planning. We're always planning. We plan our meals, we plan our budgets. It's the one that is planning. And then what I saw in all these people, which is something that is a problem sometimes, is that people fail to execute. You know, they dream, they have the dreamer, they have the architect, but where is the maker? You need to execute. And here's the important thing when we execute, Gina. When we execute, we make mistakes, and also we make things that are done right. But if we're smart, we're going to learn and we're going to become better at what we do. I'm sure when you were speaking, your first speech was not as good as your last speech or as your Too Much Woman speech. You perfect your craft, and that is something that is very important as well. The apprentice that lives in us. And when this apprentice that lives in us is combined with a warrior, we were talking about a warrior, the one that perseveres, and that meets an opportunity, that's when the achievement comes. The preparation, the endurance, the perseverance, and then an opportunity. Sooner or later, you're gonna come across an opportunity, and that's when you have your champion moment. And one of the things I am more passionate about, Gina, is to ask champions, what are you using your achievements for? We all have achievements one way or another. How are you using it? If you're using them for something that is bigger than yourself, if you're using your achievements to make this a better world, then you're going to inspire and you're going to become the 7th archetype, which is the leader. Mm-hmm. And it's called the virtuous circle because with every new idea, with every new project, you go where? Back to the beginning, to being a dreamer.
I love the idea of the circle. That is so beautiful. And when I think what I was visualizing when you were saying that, because I'm a visual person, is when I thought of the circle, I was thinking of rings. I was thinking of ripples and how at each stage there's a ripple effect. It continues to go out, out, every single thing. So it's like every decision we make, every choice that we make, even the ones that nobody sees, it's the practicing at night, it's the reading to yourself, it's getting up and drinking the water, it's the rituals that we create for ourselves, the consistent rituals that create this ripple. And this is how, people always say you were an overnight success. I said, I've been doing this for 26 years. I mean, it's not like I jumped on the stage and did Too Much Woman and then I had a tour and I had a book. And, how do you do that, Gina? I've been working my craft, not just working my craft. It wasn't even that was the end goal. I didn't even have the vision for that. But my goal, my vision, the dream for me was to create space for other women to see the highest version of themselves. That's always been the direction of my work. And so that energy is the ripple. So I love that you use the circle. Tell me, do you have rituals in your life? Do you have habits and rituals, or what are some of the things that you do that keeps you?
Yeah, I believe in, I don't know, if you can daily, daily, if you can regularly, regular, if it is whenever you can. But I believe in doing whatever helps you recalibrate your energy, you know. So it doesn't have to be going to the Himalaya and closing your eyes. And for some people it's dancing, for some people it's walking, for some people it's calling a friend, for some people it's reading a book, for some people it's journaling. I don't believe in a one solution fits all, because we're all different. But I do believe, and I sense it, and it's a work that I've made, especially in these days that we receive so much information, sad news. We're saturated with so much information that whenever I feel that I'm building anxiety, or that, you know, I'm not as aligned as I would like to, I go back to that. And it could be walking in nature, that here in where I live it's allowed, or it could be listening to music, listening to audio books. My master that I love from all times, and he's not alive anymore, you know, but it's still my friend and master. From the moment I was 16, I had a bad breakup, you know, when I was 16, and I grabbed this book called Your Erroneous Song.
Oh, yes.
By
Dr.
Dr.
Dyer.
Wayne, yeah, by Dr. Wayne Dyer. He became my friend, you know, and now I'm so happy that there are so many videos and audiobooks. And he was the person, Gina, I cried the most for when he died, that I have never met in person, because it was like a friend is going. He was holding my hand, and still is. In every different circumstance that is tough in my life, I go back to his teachings. I go back to his book, back to his lectures and everything. And at the moment when he left, you know, his mission was completed in this planet. I mean, but at the same time, it was nice to have him around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's give our love. I know he's here in this moment, the energy of him, and that's the ripple, right? That's the ripple. Talk to me about times when, what is your hope? Like, when you look forward and you think about, I mean, we're in such uncertain times right now, but what is your deep wish? What is your vision? What is the thing that pulls you forward from your future self? Like, what is that thing?
Individual or collective?
Both.
Okay. Collective, I think all the excrements are coming out on the air, you know, in a poetic way, to say it in a poetic
the crap,
way.
the shit
Yes,
surfacing.
everything. Everything. There's no time for BS. Everybody's showing their true face, you know. If you are about people, we're gonna see it. If you are about just making money, we're gonna see it. If you care about your employees, we're gonna see it. If you don't care about your employees, we're gonna see it. Everything is out there. You know, there's no sugarcoating, because when reality hits so hard like that, and so my hope is that out from all of this, that is like reality is hitting you in the face with no sugarcoating. We are going to see it, and we are going to think about, okay, who's who in the world, who's who in the planet, but who's who in our lives, because what's happening in a macro level is happening also in our own relationships, you know. But at the same time, I think we are going to start evaluating what is worth prioritizing in our life, and what is worth not prioritizing in our life. I'm already hearing so many people who are saying, you know what, maybe I'm gonna do more, like we're doing virtual conferences and spending more time with my family, not traveling so much. Others are thinking the opposite. Others are thinking, oh my God, I was thinking about traveling in the future, and it was always something that I was going to do in the future. And I assumed I will have this opportunity always. And I realized that the special occasion is being alive. So as soon as I can, I'm going to do everything that I thought I was going to do in a special occasion. So that is in a micro level. In a personal level, I think this has given me the gift of focus. I've always been somebody who is juggling so many things, so many projects. And now I have the opportunity to really narrow it down during this time and focus in one or two things. And that has been really good because you see the improvement day by day when you have something you are building. And let me tell you something. My lifestyle, and I think yours too, was always I'm arriving from a trip, but I'm already leaving to another trip, you know, from wherever to wherever. And I have in my garage, Gina, I have um, the last luggage, the last piece of luggage from the last trip from the old world. I delivered the keynote for Century 21 in Los Angeles, and I still have not mastered the courage to, and this was like 3 months ago or so or more, and I still have not mastered the courage to open that piece of luggage and put everything in that place in my home because I'm still holding on and I don't have to, but I have to release, surrender, let go. And I don't know when my next piece of luggage will be done or what my next piece of luggage metaphorically will look like. Maybe it doesn't look like a piece of luggage, but I know that this weekend I have to go there and I have to release it, put everything in place and feel at peace, trusting that something even better is going to come. Because for me, flying and traveling has always been a lifestyle and has always been something that gave me a sense of freedom. But freedom does not come only in the form of planes or in the form of luggage.
Wow. You know, it's funny that you say that because I perpetually have my passport on this one little ledge in my bedroom. And I just always have it there. So, because I'm always coming, going. So I come in, I leave it there. I know it's there. I don't have to. And I just maybe a week ago, finally put it away. There's no reason for it to be out. I don't know when, but I finally put it away. And it's yes, what a learning. What a beautiful learning. I want to talk about, and thank you for that sharing. That was just so juicy. I want to talk about, switch gears for a moment and talk about your partner, your husband, and the role of him, men. Let's talk about men and let's talk about him in supporting not only your grand vision and your grand life. I remember at Too Much Woman Dallas, I didn't know it was your husband. I knew that he came in. I didn't know if he was a support person. I didn't even know. But he sat there and I just remember him being such a solid presence beside you. And that's such a beautiful thing. Talk to me a little bit about your relationship and how a man holds space for a too much woman who has a grand vision for her life. What is it about what he does that holds the space for that?
I think that relationships, the rules of the relationship, you know, they are established and written, even if you don't write it in the first moments of that relationship. People, when they say people show you who they truly are, you know, in the first time or second time, believe them. That means believe them for good or for bad, you know, but believe them. And what happened with me and my husband was that we got an extraordinary chance to get to know each other in a non-romantic way, you know, as friends, as two people who were studying in the same master's degree. So I went to him and I would say, well, I would tell him about bad breakups, about bad sex, good sex, whatever was going on in my life, you know, non-censored stuff. And so did he, you know, whatever was going in his life, he would tell me. And so you have that so raw and so honest connection with somebody when you really are not thinking about that person in a romantic way. So I was all the time thinking about another relationship that I was about to finish. And that relationship with my husband starting as a friendship that was in a very honest friendship. But what happened was when I finished this relationship that I was dealing with, then my eyes opened and I saw my friend in a very different way. Wow. This guy was telling him everything about my life. He's kind of cute now, you know. But by that time, the course, the master's degree was about to finish. So maybe I had one more week of classes or 2 more weeks of classes, and I knew I was not gonna see him again. So I really had to hurry up and start fishing. start fishing that fish. I was the one who made, I feel, Gina, if the person, I don't believe in when we talk about not believing in gender roles, it's not just about your salary, that you want to make as much as a man or do as much as a man. Why not, if we say we don't believe in gender roles, why not take that first step if you really like a person? You are not less of a woman, you're not a slut, you're not somebody who is airheaded because you take that first step. And that's what I said. You know, I went there and I told him, you know, he was visiting me and I said, you know, I'm very nervous because when I really like somebody, I get really silly and really nervous. And he was so shocked that I told it to him in his face that he told me, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you please repeat it? So I had to humiliate myself again.
And 2 times.
2 times. And then I had my first kiss. But I think that, you know, now looking back, these first stages of romance, you know, these first stages of you relating to somebody in a romantic way are the stages where you really set the tone for the relationship. You set the tone of, if you say you're gonna call me, are you calling me or are you not calling me? If you say you value my time, are you really valuing my time or not? If you say that we are being honest with each other and that we are exclusive, are we exclusive or are we not exclusive? So everything in the first time, I think, can be and more than likely will be a reflection of what's coming next.
So I want to ask you, because this came up in I'm running a group mentorship program, and this came up actually in our conversation this morning when we were talking about, like, I want to know in your relationship, because it seems that it's such a beautiful, strong, nurturing, mutually loving relationship. How much of that is who he is, and how much of that is you intending for a good relationship, putting up clear boundaries, asking for what you want, saying, you know what, this is what makes me feel good. This is what makes me feel safe. I really want this. And how much of it is just who he is? Because our conversation was around, are you looking for someone who fits this thing? Or are you looking for someone who kind of fits and maybe you just need to be clear about what you want? What would you say is your experience?
I think it's a little bit like baking a cake. The ingredients need to be there. You know, you need to have the ingredients that you want for that person, whether it's honesty, whether it is being somebody who genuinely is generous, not that he opens his pocket and gives you dollars, generous not because he buys you whatever. That's not generous. Generous is if you have something that is making you happy, he's genuinely happy for your accomplishments. That's being generous. So you have a kind-hearted, a good-hearted person. That is something that is an ingredient that you cannot invent. It has to be there, you know. A jerk, you know, and as a person who is a bad person with a bad heart, it doesn't matter how much you kind of try to coach him. It's a lot of work because he's a jerk to begin with.
Yes.
So you need to have that foundation of that being a good person. Having said that, if it's 2 persons who are good-hearted and good people, and you can work on having good communications, you can fine-tune to cater to the needs of the other person and to have that flexibility. There's no perfect match or perfect couple. 2 imperfect people who are trying to make the most with their own imperfections, to be first happy themselves, because I don't think anybody can make you happy, you know, from the outside. You have to do that internal work of trying to be as happy as you can, and then building with somebody else who is doing the exact same work.
I'm so glad you said that. That's a huge piece for me. You know, come to me with the intention to take care of yourself. There's a beautiful line from Jim Rohn, and he said, I used to say, I'll make you happy if you make me happy. But now I say, I'll make me happy for you if you'll make you happy for me. So
Yes.
if each person can hold that space for themselves, and then we support one another, but I'm responsible for my happiness and you're responsible for yours. I think that's so beautiful. Can we talk, I didn't really clear this with you beforehand, but can we talk about children?
Yes.
Tell me your, I mean, one of the, let me see this. We had panels in Too Much Woman Dallas, panels of women having conversations. And one of the questions that I asked, I don't know if you were on that panel or the other one, but one of the questions I said is, what is the one question that you are so tired of answering that you want once and for all to answer? And mine is, I'm so tired of people saying, how are you traveling and speaking when you have kids at home? Like, how are you like, I'm so tired of people.
The guilt trip.
Man,
The guilt trip of
nobody
bad mom.
the guilt.
Bad mom.
So that's mine. I wonder, what is your question? And I don't, maybe it's not this. I'm not trying to lead you here, but I do want to know about anything you want to say on the subject, because I know there are women listening. You know, I have 50,000 women globally. I know there are women listening who might be in your situation. So talk to me.
Well, I don't have kids. I have been in a committed relationship for, next year it's going to be 20 years. So it's always like something that people wonder, like, how come you didn't have kids? Or maybe you couldn't have kids. Some people like don't want to ask, or it's okay if you know, if they, I mean, it's okay either way. But for me, it has been that I tell them the most truthful answer that I can tell them. So far, for me, I've never had such a strong desire to be a mom. Everything in my life has been led by desire, has been led by the willingness to do something, whatever that is, you know, traveling the ocean and leaving everything I've known in Argentina to start fresh in a new country was led by a burning desire to follow this adventure. Starting my company was done by a burning desire to do this. So far, I haven't felt it. I'm 42. When I was 36 years old, I froze my eggs. So that is frozen in a clinic for if I want to use it in the future. But also I feel that I have to embrace, and I like this idea, and I put it in my book too, of embracing, and if you want to have kids, and amplified. We have amplified views of families now. It's not just your typical family, not just mom and dad. It could be a single mother, a single father, two moms, two dads, etc. A grandma and your mother, whatever. I think we have to start embracing an amplified way, you know, if it works for you, of being a mom, because the world has changed. Everything has changed. The only thing that has not changed is women's biology. Women's biology has remained the same from the beginning of time, which means that when you reach 35, your fertility is going to start going down, 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 down. But our lives are not the same. Our 35 years old right now are not the same as the 35-year-old lives of my grandma or my great grandma. And I feel that sometimes there's so much, first of all, there's a lot of pressure to make you feel that you're not a complete woman unless you are a mother, which is completely false. You are a whole woman, complete woman of yourself, even if you don't have kids, you know. But the second thing is, if you want to have kids, I think it's a lot of stress to think only within biological terms. Why? Because there's a lot of women who by 30 or 35 have not found that special person in their lives, or have other priorities in their lives, or maybe they just don't feel like doing it at that particular time, and that's okay. We shouldn't be judging. Just like they shouldn't tell you, why are you traveling when you have kids? We shouldn't be judging those women as well, because we do have a completely different standard when it comes to men. Mick Jagger had his 8th child when he was 70 something, and everybody's clapping like, hey, what a hunk, he's great, you know?
Yes.
So of course, within the guidelines of reason, that you have years ahead to live, and that you're gonna do it in a responsible way, I think that having an amplified way of thinking about maternity is really good. And also, this is on a personal level, I do feel that we are We are not humans with a spirit. We are spirits with a human experience. And I believe that the people that come to our lives, that we relate, they are supposed to be in your life, and they can come in many ways. They can come biologically, or they can come because you adopted them, or because they are your neighbor, because they will come to your life regardless, you know. But that is my own way of
That's beautiful.
seeing life.
I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Well said. And I know that there are a lot of people that needed to hear that. So I appreciate it. Just a couple, I'm mindful of the time, a couple of just quick things. Can you just talk a little bit about guilt? You know, I want to talk about a woman who is a woman. You talk a lot about desire leading you. I talk about desire being divine. You know, it is divine. Every desire is divine. It is, there's no shame in having the desire and prioritizing our desires and allowing them and not being ashamed. So many women don't even allow themselves to dream, in my experience. So for you, someone who has led her life by design, letting desire like breadcrumbs lead you, do you ever feel, have you ever felt guilty or you know, it's all about you? Or do you ever get that kind of feedback? Because I know, I mean, for me particularly, it's because I'm a parent. And, but it's also, you know, my decision to do what I do is, I talk a lot about being selfish, being self-centered, you know, centered on self, being full of myself. Well, of course I'm full. Who else am I going to be full of? So talk a little bit about, you know, you live a life that is very much led by your desire. And how does that play out? Do you ever feel or get the impression that you should feel bad or guilty?
The thing is, I know I'm not a bad person. And I know, yes, and I know that some people think that saying no or establishing limits, you know, makes them a bad person. That's not the case. You know, you can say no to whatever you don't feel comfortable with. You can establish boundaries, and that doesn't make you a bad person. So really, I don't feel guilt by living the way I live. First of all, because the life that I live is not built on somebody else's pain. I'm not building projects, ideas, relationships on somebody else's pain or somebody else's distraction.
Right.
So I don't think that I should be feeling guilty, but I do feel that as women, there's always this possibility of twisting things to try to make us feel bad. If you didn't have kids, because you didn't have kids. Once you have a kid, because you didn't have the little brother or the little sister. Once you have the little brother and the little sister, how are their grades? Did they graduate? Did they graduate in top class? Did they go valedictorian? Did they go to the Ivy League? Etc., etc. If you travel, why are you traveling? If you're staying at home, why are you staying at home? Lazy, right. You know.
It's all fear tactics to keep us in line. Yeah, absolutely. If you were to, if the whole world went silent, Gabby, and a microphone dropped right here in your closet, and you had a message that you wanted to share with the women of the world, what would it be?
Go live. Go live.
Yes. Yes. Even if you can't go far, go live in your closet.
For now, go live inside your home, but go live.
I love it. I love it. Yes, absolutely. Go live. You are the embodiment of living, fully expressed. And I just feel so blessed to have crossed your path. You are
Same
a soul
here.
sister. I just love your spirit, your energy. And I look forward to crossing paths with you again out there, getting on a plane and actually crossing paths, whether it's in Argentina or anywhere else. Thank you for your being. Thank you for who you are. Thank you.
It was just like the saying goodbye. But you
Yeah,
felt
I just want to thank you for the inspiration and for living fully, because every time we see someone else who is living fully, it gives us permission. It gives us permission to say, what can I do? What can I do? And that's what you are, not just for me, but for everyone. So I thank
thank
you. I
you.
thank you for being
No, thanks to you. Thank you for creating this space. Thank you for showing women that there's no such thing as being too much women. And I hope we stay in touch. And as you said, we're going to meet somewhere in planet Earth in the future. And for those women who are feeling kind of low today, who need a little push, a little bit of inspiration, check out my Pioneer TED Talk. Pioneer how to be what you can't see, because now we're all dreaming, and sometimes it's hard. As you said, we need to see ourselves represented, we need to see ourselves in the world, but sometimes you can't see anyone who took that step before you. So we have to become that pioneer for the next woman in life.
Yes. Tell us the name of your TED Talk and the name of your book, Gabby.
Yes, the name of the TED Talk is Pioneer, How to Be What You Can't See.
Love it.
The name of the book is The Virtuous Circle. And the name of my hair pieces is Welcome All Beauty.
Yes. And so, as I said, you will be seeing my tribe. You will be seeing me in one of Gabby's hair pieces as soon as we we update this color. I haven't been to a hairstylist in a while, but I'm very excited to be.
I like this color. I like this color, but I like change too. So if you want to go blonde, go blonde.
Yes. Yeah, we gotta live. We gotta live. That's what living's about, right?
Exactly.
Living's about. Thank you so much. Please find Gabby online. Look for her all over social media. I'm going to drop some links below so that we have easy access to her. You are everything. You are everything. Thank you.
Keep rocking, my friend. Keep rocking. See you in the world.
Thank you. Thank you.